when you asked about like how much can the offensive change in season, and Tim was like, they can't change it that much.
You kind of are who you are
during the
We
season.
got 3 practices.
But I do
Wednesday,
think
Thursday, Friday.
I do think the defense is going to play the Browns differently. We
I
all
agree
know
with
how
that.
good Nick Chubb is.
Go back and look at the Buffalo game, the way that they sold out to stop the run. We saw it Sunday with Tampa.
As much as you want to stop Chubb, you can't sell out as much if you're a defense with Deshaun Watson as you would with Brissett.
I want to ask you guys about something Tim said. Tim said he thinks it's the perfect scenario for Deshaun Watson because he's playing a team in the Houston Texans that's got one victory on the season.
Yeah.
On one hand, yes, you want them to go against a team that talent-wise you feel you should be able to handle. But we can't not talk about the other part of
That's going to be a tough atmosphere.
So Deshaun, wherever he goes, is going to get the Michael Vick treatment.
Yes.
But it'll be nothing like what he gets in Houston because, remember, he tapped out there. He told the team, I don't want to be here with you guys. Right. So the players have that fuel.
Yeah.
And the fans also. Imagine if we had Deshaun Watson here, and next season he tells us, I can't win here, I'm leaving. How angry we would be.
So let me tell you, I've been in one of those type games, right? So when I was at Ohio State, my senior year, we were playing Minnesota. So we were going to play Minnesota at Minnesota. And 5 or 6 of their players got into some type of sexual assault, something that went on in Minneapolis, maybe 5 days before we were supposed to play this game, 5 or 6 days. So they then immediately removed them from the team.
Wow.
And they only had 5 scholarship players left, 5, in front of 18, 19,000 Minnesota play. 5 scholarship players. We felt like we were going to come in and run the table. They brought on 3 walk-ons.
Wow.
To add to the 5. I think 3 of them were football players that just came into play.
Because they knew that football players had a lot of success against you guys.
Right. So we
from the Chris Carter game.
We came in here, and so I'm thinking we're going up in Minneapolis and we're going to run the table here because they just don't have enough manpower.
Sure.
The venue, it had to be the wildest venue that I've ever been in. There were 19,000 people strong in Minneapolis, and they were all representing the burgundy and gold of Minneapolis. It wasn't about.
So it was tougher than you thought.
It was much tougher.
Did they beat you?
Oh, did they beat us?
Yeah.
They did.
Not only beat us bad, right?
Okay, so I thought
after that day, it went back in the tank.
Yeah.
But on that day,
right,
they responded that day.
It's a little different of a situation because it was their own players versus the opposing team.
No,
Yeah,
but see, Deshaun Watson here is the enemy of the state versus the city of Houston.
But
this
the Texans fans even
they
care
were
at this
just
point.
cheering on their guys.
Right.
But
They're supporting their guy.
You were in a game where you were the enemy of the state.
So,
when you went back to Wisconsin,
I was in that too.
Yeah.
you were basically doing what is going to happen on Sunday.
Right.
With Deshaun Watson, what was that experience like?
So when
because
I
you left Wisconsin and they were not happy.
Oh no,
with
they
you.
were not happy. So when I walked back into the venue, it was in that case, it was me versus the state versus me, right? Basically, is what it came down to. And to Tim's point, you've got to be able to cocoon that thing off.
Could you?
Yeah. So I was pretty good. I was pretty good when I came out the gate. Good. But what happened was the energy in the place fueled the other side.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what I brought to the table that day, that for those 40 minutes, those few players, the players on the other side that I know were lesser than the players I had it with me in Columbus,
Yeah.
they were like, we're not having it that day. We're not.
Yeah.
You're not going to get this win today. And every turn I made, right, to make a stand, because we were running them out the gym. And then next thing I knew, out of the wood, and then the groundswell from the audience, from the crowd, it became so loud.
And they beat
Jay.
you that day?
Oh, yeah, Jay. And then, Jay, I've told you the story before. Before the game, I'm in the locker room. The locker room was under the arena, right? This is 45 minutes before the game. They're chanting my entire name in the entire building. I could hear it under the floor.
Wow.
This is under cement and everything, right? They were ready. They were like, we've been waiting for you. We've been waiting 2 years for you.
It's kind of like Russ Wilson and Seattle.
Yeah,
I
this
wonder,
is what he's
though,
going to see on Sunday.
Have the Texans fans already checked out?
No, not for
I
this
think
one.
this is their Super Bowl.
Yes, but they're coming back.
This is their Super Bowl.
They'll
I
be
think
there
they
for this
have
one.
checked out, but I think for this one game,
Maybe.
they're gonna
they
look
will.
at it like
Oh,
it's the
sure.
NFC Championship.
This is their day.
You may be
Or
right,
AFC
guys.
championship.
I don't buy that the Texans players hate Deshaun Watson. I don't buy that.
It's not. I don't think it's that, bull. I think it's the energy, the atmosphere.
Yeah, that I can buy.
Hold on.
Sure.
I want to drill down on that.
Yeah.
Brad, did the Wisconsin players hate you and have
No,
animus
those are my
towards you?
friends.
Yeah,
I know,
right.
but was there any part of them that said, I'm not losing to this guy, he left us?
No. So here, the first time we played them in Columbus, we smoked them in Columbus. That was my first time against them, right?
Right.
So after the game, we all met up at center court,
Sure.
just like old times, right? But it was different when I went back into their venue. The atmosphere had them all charged up, and they weren't against me. They were defending the state and their name. Like, no, you're not gonna do us like you did down in Columbus. It's not happening here today.
So they did
Deshaun
use
Watson
that,
got an
though. They
uphill
used that
back.
as fuel.
So what he needs is the people that surround him to meet the challenge with him and say, listen, you're not taking my guy down today.
They have to jump on that bandwagon, and they got to have the mentality of, look, everybody like clowning the Browns. You're lovable losers. They talk about the river. They talk about all the losses, and yet and still you go out and get Deshaun Watson, but now 8 other teams didn't want him either. Everybody wanted to get Deshaun Watson. The problem is now they want to tell you, oh, you should be ashamed of getting Deshaun Watson.
yeah.
The whole media, the
league,
the whole
Who
country.
cares? They would have said that about whatever team got him.
But here's the point.
Yeah.
Here's the point.
Yeah.
You stack that upon everything that they said about the Browns.
Yeah.
How your colors are terrible. All that other stuff. The Browns need to come out and say, you know what, screw y'all.
Yeah.
We don't care. We
That's
got
right.
Deshaun Watson, and we plan on beating
excuses.
the brakes. We plan on beating brakes off all of y'all.
No
You
excuses.
laughed at us for 21, 23 to jersey with the quarterback. We don't care. I'm going to wear my jersey. I'm going to wear my coat. I got it on the day. You're not going to talk me off of it. I'm going to get my money off. And when we put 28 to 35 points on y'all can chant and do whatever you want to. But you know what I noticed? When you be winning, them chants dissipate.
They're gone.
Them chants,
They're gone.
hey, because I seen it with Ben Roethlisberger. They brought him out like Caesar when he retired. Hell Caesar.
You know what the difference
Hell,
was?
Caesar.
A lot of time
Oh,
did pass.
Caesar.
And you know what Ben did? He went home and he shut his mouth.
He did.
And he hid.
Yeah.
And
he
you
did.
never heard from him
He
again.
got
after
married
that.
and he hid.
That's exactly what he did.
Yeah.
That's what Watson got to stay out of trouble. He's got to don't do anything bad, and eventually people will calm down with the booing. He's going to have to put up with it. He deserves it, and he's got to suck it up.
You know, the
Who
Browns
cares?
did
So this
something
is- so it's
Sunday, yesterday, that I loved. We talked about this earlier in the year when they were
Yeah.
at Carolina. I said, if they win the coin toss, I hope they take the football.
Yeah.
Because I think it's important
Yes.
that they just dismiss that crowd right away. So, again, this is something where analytics, the trend in the league is you always defer. But when you're the Browns, they did something very smart. They said, no, we're going to take the ball because their offense has started the game so hot.
They're gods.
And
They're
what did they
unstoppable.
do?
First
They
series.
and so if they win the toss at Houston, I hope they do the same thing. Take the ball.
I bet they will.
Run it down the field and score and shut that crowd up.
I'm gonna tell you the other thing that you see these T-shirts out here where the sports teams have these shirts that says "Us Against the World." This is what this is, because at 9 o'clock today, whatever time camp opens up at Berea, every player over there is going to be asked about this thing.
Every single one.
Right, every day, every hour, every spirit. What about going to Houston? What about Deshaun? What about this? So you thought they got tired of it before.
Yeah, the distraction is back.
The mentality, though, has to be that we're all banding together here,
Yes.
right? And no matter what, you can't be out on the fringe here like, I'm not with you today, but
Jay, what
I'm
did
gonna
you
act
pick
like I'm
up
with
in the
you.
locker room yesterday? Because I'm sure everybody was asked yesterday about Deshaun coming back.
Actually, they weren't because
Really?
Because of the
it was-
win.
Because of the win
Yeah.
and the way that the game transpired. Wednesday is going to be a very uncomfortable day.
Wednesday
in
will be
Berea.
nuts for them.
Wednesday's when quarterbacks talk.
Yep.
I assume the expectation is Deshaun's going to talk on Wednesday. He's not going to get football questions on Wednesday.
No, he won't.
It's going to be relitigating all of this.
You say you
Eventually,
assume
we're
he's
going
going
to
to
get
talk. I wouldn't be surprised if the Browns just didn't bring him out.
Well,
People are being called
they have to.
today.
They're
They're
supposed
being
to.
you know how you have those personal contacts with players? People are being called today. The Twitter thing is going on today. This is going on right now.
People from Baltimore, people from Vegas, I said, what do you call little OG Bush for? I just do the barbershop. Hey, can I get a quote from you? I'm like, what? People right now
So
is warmed up.
I would just say this: if you're one of the 50+ members of the Browns, you better be ready to circle the wagons here, because if you have any chance, any desire to make a playoff push, you got to be all in on this thing, all the way in, right? And that means you're defending everybody to the hilt for just the team, not just defending him, defending the team.
Hey, a 35-7 win Sunday, you think that team believes now if they go down there and take care of business, not just with a win, but an emphatic win, and the offense looks completely different, even though it's against the Texans. And I know it's 5-7, but then you're going to start to the snowball is going to be picking up steam as it goes down the hill.
The public relations side of it, I hope Deshaun Watson and his team has come up with a concise statement, a plan of action, so that when they ask you those questions on Wednesday, you answer them one time and one time only. And then you move forward and I'm talking about football.
If I'm him, I'm saying we've talked about this already. I am no longer going to discuss it. And
I think he has to give a statement.
I wouldn't.
I would answer one question about it and say, I would even set the ground rules before.
Yes.
I know you guys have a lot of questions. I'm here to play a football game. I will either make an opening statement about the situation or I will answer one question, and then I'm turning the page to football. Because
Jay,
that's
if
what
I
I'm
were
trying
him,
to
my
do.
opening statement would be, I'm no longer talking about it. He's talked about it.
I know.
What can he say?
You think the reporters are going to say, okay, what do you think the chances are of winning Sunday?
I like that better.
They're going to kill him.
Give your concise statement.
Every time he's made a statement, it's cringeworthy.
I don't want him answering questions.
I don't like the way they've handled this from his.
I haven't either.
I think they've made a lot of missteps.
I agree. I agree.
And it's not going to go away.
No,
he is going to get these questions.
It's not going away.
But I do think we are going to get to the point where it does.
Yeah, it's going to get old.
Football.
It's going to get old.
And it's probably after this week. He's going to have to deal with this Wednesday. He may have to deal with it Sunday post game. And then I do think, and I also don't want to minimize how people feel about this because there's a lot of people who don't want him here. And if that's the way you feel, you have that right, and I don't fault you. But there are a lot of other people who just want to talk football and want to get this on football.
True. You got two things
going
on. You got his personal case. Then you have the team sucked in and the players sucked in here. The one thing that I will say that in the entire process, it appeared that he was always on an island by himself. There was nobody with any. I mean, I said it before. There was nobody with any guides. To Bull's point, and to Jay's point, really, he cannot duck this. He'll have to say something from the beginning to get him past that point here. Because if you think that you're going to walk and say, I'm just talking about football, they're just going to turn up the heat. It's going to keep coming. It's going to keep coming.
He hasn't talked. He did the one thing with Aditi before the preseason game, and that looked very scripted and whatever. But he hasn't talked. I mean, there's been a new lawsuit that's come out since then.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there are things that he is going to have to talk about and address because he has talked about this. But he's really going to talk about it, I think. In the last press conference in March, I think once during
You know what the thing is,
before
though?
he left, he did not look that. Remember, he had a couple misstatements before he left.
Yes.
And that led to Brad saying, where's your team at? You shouldn't be saying that.
But, guys,
right
we're in a situation. This is Deshaun talking is basically like politics. It's like every once in a while I put a tweet up where I complain about something politically. And it's pointless because everybody's picked their camps already, and I'm not changing anybody's mind. And it's the same thing. Everybody's picked their camp on the Deshaun Watson thing. And with Deshaun, there's three camps. There's he's disgusting, I don't want him here. Yeah. There's he's disgusting, but he's great at football, so I'm okay with it. And then there's I don't care at all.
Right.
But and nobody's changing camps. None. Yeah. Nobody's changing
I don't think
camps.
anybody's changing camps, but what it is if I can equate it to a fire, it's you have a fire when it's at blaze, full at blaze, and you got it when it's just burning embers underneath, right? And then somebody walks in with some gasoline or some wood, throws it on there, boom.
Yeah. But that's what he's done when he's talked, so that's what
that's why I would
We're going to know on Wednesday what happens here.
I would say, and even if he's reading off of it, I know that we'd kill him for that and say it's not genuine, you're reading it. But you want him to stay within the bounds. What you don't want him to do is to stand up there and start freelancing because he's proven he can't do that.
I don't worry about the local media here.
There'll be national media.
It'll be the national people here on Wednesday.
No, Wednesday.
That are looking forward to vote.
You know what? Honestly, I'm in the media. It doesn't matter what he says. People are coming here Wednesday. And they know what they're going to write, and they're going to write it regardless of what he says.
Absolutely right.
And
they know the piece they're going to write.
It's already done.
It's just a matter of what words he gives them to make their case.
And I hate saying that.
I do too.
I try to never approach a story that way.
Is that what y'all do?
You know what, Brad? There is a fraction of the.
I'm being facetious.
Is that what y'all do?
No, I'll tell you. But I don't know if I've ever done that. I truly don't.
I don't think you have, Jason.
You're a gentleman and a scholar. You're a gentleman and a scholar. There are others that don't do this. Subscribe to that.
Young kids will ask me all the time that are studying it, what is journalism? And everybody has a different, I believe at the end of the day that here's the quickest, easiest definition of journalism. Journalism is telling stories as they are, not as we wish them to be.
That's exactly it. It's
Well,
pursuing the truth.
That's it.
It's
It's one line.
supposed to be.
But you got
Find
that.
the truth.
You got that. You got some people working for editors that are saying
You're
are
right.
holding the anvil over people's heads, saying, "I'm gonna need a story like this." You want to make
Too
your
many outlets
you want to
have
make
slants.
you want to make your bread, so you got to dance with the devil, right? And you can give somebody the straight facts. These are the facts. It's innocent
They don't
as all
want
get
those.
out, and they don't want the facts.
Jay, I'm actually glad you said that because I've always hated that aspect of our business too. I really do. It's ugly. And that's why the public has such a low perception of us in general.
Yeah.
And I've been a consumer of your words for a long time. And before I met you, I didn't know you, but the one thing I always admired about you was and again, sometimes we feel like we know the person that we've read for a long time.
Yeah.
I felt like before I met you, I kind of knew who you were.
Right.
Practical
tell.
sensibilities. But what I always found admirable about your work, and there are others in the business, and there are a lot of them. I'm not saying that you're the only one. There are a lot of guys that do this. I've read columns that you've written that I know go against what you believe. But you still use the facts of the story to make the case.
I mean,
and I wish I could come up with an exact example now, but I think it was mostly with the Cavaliers.
Yeah.
I would read that and I'd say, wow, I give this guy credit. Because I think in his heart of hearts, he doesn't necessarily believe
He
this
hates Dan Gilbert for
himself.
crying out loud.
But you
I
know
don't
what?
hate Dan.
He's been so fair.
All right, stop pumping him up so much.
Listen, I think it needs to be pointed out because coming into this week, you're 1,000% right. There will be journalists from the networks and big papers and publications that come here, and the assignment has already been delivered. Go do a hit piece on Watson.
Go kill him.
Right.
Get him.
Yep.
And by the way,
That's how. And I hate that aspect of our business.
And by the way, this is very important to say. I'm a big person. I say it all the time. Learn from other people's mistakes. I ask people to do that when it comes to coaching and in regular life, or if you're just a regular person. And Deshaun Watson can learn from two different cases and instances. Prominent men in the African American community, Kyrie Irving and Kanye West. You can learn based on, it isn't about what they've said. Most times in America, we get to a point where we love a redemption story. Our country is built on second chances, making amends for certain things, and we've shown that we will even vote for people who are flawed characters, flawed individuals. The messaging is the most important, though. If you look at what happened with Kyrie Irving, he could have eliminated a lot of that just by not going off script. And I know how it is. As athletes, we freestyle a lot. As athletes, we ad-lib. As athletes, you feel when the play break down, I'm at my best when the play break down. But when you're dealing with messaging, you're dealing with emotion, and you're dealing with people, you got to be concise. You got to watch what you say. You got to watch how you look when you say it. And on top of that, you got to stand by the game plan. Don't deviate. They got about 97 trigger questions rated.
Stick to the script.
Stick to the script. If you do it once right, you can move on.
Well, nobody was out to get Kyrie. He got himself out.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
They are now, though.
They're gonna
Deservedly so.
They're gonna ask you questions. They're gonna keep going at it. Kyrie didn't do what he was supposed to. If you would have issued it the way you were supposed to issue it, and stuck to the script for the people you pay. You pay them to help you. It's public relations.
I think Kyrie's thing, and this is way off topic, but we can move on after this.
Kyrie's an idiot, and he doesn't even know what he did wrong.
Kyrie believes that he should be able to express his viewpoints no matter how ugly or hateful they are.
Right.
And
Facts.
Which
that's
he,
when you
which
get
he
into
can,
the whole,
but he thinks there should be no consequences
right.
for that.
And the thing is, people say, well, we don't live in a free country. We can't say what we say. No, if you work at McDonald's,
That's right. The difference
and the person comes up to the window and say, here's your order, please vote for Biden.
Right.
You could do that. You have the right to do that. But McDonald's as a corporation has the right to say,
I don't want
you're
that.
fired.
Right.
Yeah,
So Kyrie,
But the government can't arrest you
I
for
had
that.
someone who's very wealthy, who was a very, very successful athlete, once tell me, when you make a certain amount of money, you feel you can say and do whatever you want. But that's not true.
Yes.
I mean,
that
they
is
can
facts.
cancel you and you can be forced into retirement and you can sit on your pile of money, but you will be judged for your words. And in Kyrie's case, he will be. And in Deshaun's case, what the media is, what they're going to do is they're going to throw a lot of banana peels on the floor.
Coming.
and they're just waiting to see which one he trips over.
Well, I'm gonna tell you this. You gotta imagine that on Sunday. I can only imagine there are going to be numerous groups protesting Watson's return.
It'll be everywhere.
Oh, it'll be at stadiums.
It's going to be every freaking.
It might be here in Cleveland.
And you know what?
Which I don't have a problem with.
I don't either. And again, there are people in Cleveland who are going to stop rooting for the Browns right now because Deshaun is back.
I'm going back to this point where he's talking about, if you have a script and somebody's giving you the guidance saying, okay, because here, you don't want to go out here and slip on a banana peel, right? So, okay, so I'm a believer that you have to issue a statement and say this is what it is, and then I'm going back to what I was doing here. But if you go off script here, right, there are 1,000 landmines that are already set up here. They've been sitting up here for months.
And the media is salivating because he's already tripped up.
Right.
They know that he's very capable of
again.
tripping up.
If you've been around
waiting
him,
for it.
if you've been around him, and the stuff we've just seen from the side, because some of the statements he was making earlier on, we all were sitting here like, what
is
are
he
you
doing?
What are you doing?
Yeah. Please. Jay, we talked about this. I would say make him available for a statement and then have a limited Q&A where at some point either he or Peter or somebody says, okay.
It won't be him. It has to be. It looks awful if it's him.
I agree with that. So that's why I said Peter steps in and says, okay, guys, look, we're getting Deshaun ready to play a football game. Football-only questions now. The next question that's not football-related, we're shutting it down. You could do it that way.
That works?
I'm not sure you can do that this week.
I don't
I think
know.
you have to let it. You have to open the vein and let it run its course.
But why?
Because
what's the fallout?
Because the sharks are hungry.
Oh,
and
but let me
there's
ask you
blood in
this:
the water.
what is the fall ultimately? There's like we say, oh, it looks bad, it doesn't. But the reality is, if Deshaun Watson went up there and said, I'm done. I've talked about it enough. I'm done talking about it. What's the real fallout besides think pieces ripping him again?
well, I mean,
There's
he's not
really
gonna be
no
fined or
fallout.
anything. No, but for just the place of where the Browns are at, the fact he has talked about it, but he hasn't talked very often. It's been a long time since we've heard from him. There has been a new allegation since he came out. There's a new court. It's not an allegation. It's a court case come out against him. There are things he needs to address, and the Browns responsibly need to let him address this
He did
stuff.
actually address the new court
Yeah,
case.
he did.
His lawyer did.
His lawyer did, not him.
He has not.
I
It'll
just
be
think there's
interesting.
no real fallout for him saying, I'm not going to
Well,
play.
you know what? I think, Adam, the fallout would be, Jason, whenever the media is unified on something, and you're going to see it on every single media outlet, it becomes reality. It's one thing, like in politics, you've got
Fox,
the left,
CNN.
got CNN and MSNBC over here, and you got Fox over here, and there's a huge gap between them. So it's never really, like, when Fox starts beating the drum against Trump, that's the worst thing that can happen to Donald Trump. And when CNN and MSNBC start beating the drum against Biden, that's the worst thing that can happen because then the message from the media becomes unified.
Yeah.
The message on Deshaun Watson is pretty close to unified. There's not a lot of media outlets that are saying, yeah, he's a good dude, let's cut him some slack. They're sharks, they smell blood in the water. And the risk, I think, in saying nothing or making it very brief is that now you've galvanized the media.
What about-
They're all going to be hard.
How does that affect him on the field?
Because the voice in the room now is coming from all corners. There's no defenders.
The media has an absolute impact on
They
teams
do.
and players.
But Jason,
1,000,000%.
most of the people that think he shouldn't play or whatever, they're not going to change no matter what he says. So what's the point? They're still going to
You're
write
not
those
trying to
same
convince
things.
anybody to come to your
Here's
side.
what you're trying to do. I'm big into debates and political debates. There are some candidates that I know that I would not vote for. But when they do go to debates, the ones that do show up and they're prepared, they answer the questions well, even that's not their track record. I come away as a person who's in the opposition saying, well, that person didn't do enough to get him off of his spot because he came off as credible. He came off as he may have a different opinion as you or different policies. But when you go to the public and you show your face and show that you are read, you are professional, and that you have thought about these things over time, what you do is come away and some journalists say, well, I think you might have been BSing that answer, but I really can't.
Well, a
nitpick it.
fascinating case study in that was the Pennsylvania Senate race.
Yep.
Yeah.
Where even the left media looked at the performance from the Democratic contender and they were like, this is troublesome.
Yeah.
This is really trouble. I've never seen
Well, his opponent was a quack who ripped people off with illegal drugs.
there's I'm just sticking it to one side now.
Yeah.
I've never seen and the political landscape is changing daily, it seems. But we're at a place now where everybody universally looked at that. Even Chuck Schumer was quoted off mic as saying, we got a big problem now in PA. But what happened was people were so entrenched in their beliefs that even when they saw the train wreck with their own eyes, they still went and voted their conscience, which was their political affiliation.
There was.
And so in the way that, I think the way that pertains, and this is the point Bull makes, we are so dug in on our beliefs. We are so dug in that he could go out there and fumble a news conference and his supporters would be okay with it. They would say, you know what, he's not a great talker. He doesn't get paid to talk. He's a football player. And his detractors are still going to be against him.
Nothing's going to change.
But I don't know that you want to move the meter with the public, because I don't think you will. I think that debate in PA proves that.
It's the independents.
But
it's
you
the
do,
middle.
and the independents in this argument is the media.
Yeah, that's it.
They're supposed to be the down the middle. And you want to win them over. And I'll guarantee you it will be a 35-0 defeat if he gives them nothing.
I hear you. I just think the reality is that the media.
I would say this: your 50%. I mean, your percentage of whether you support him, then you have another percentage, an equal percentage, I believe that
you do.
That I believe there's an equal percentage that are against him, and then it's that group in the middle,
I
right?
think the supporters in Cleveland are bigger.
And I would say that the group that's left to decide. This is your media group, right?
Yes.
And I will just tell you, if you go back to his Clemson days and his Georgia days, he has people in the media that are supportive of him, that have said, I know him, right?
Sure,
I'm not gonna railroad a piece on him, right?
Right.
Then there's the other group in that same little group that's saying, I'm coming to kill him.
But the
right?
national media is far more impactful.
I can only do what I can do, and I will tell you guys. I don't know if I said it on the show or not. I met him for the first time a couple weeks ago when he first came back to the team. Because in these scrums, when there's no chance to actually talk to somebody.
Sure.
They wheel him in, he says what he says, and they whisk him out. Right. And there's no time for interaction. So I actually met him for the first time a couple weeks ago, and I just introduced myself and said, I'm Jason Lloyd with The Athletic. You're going to be here a while. I'm going to be here a while. Let's start building some sort of relationship. I'm willing to give him a chance.
How did that go?
He was very receptive to it. And he said, I love the sound of that. Nice to meet you. Love to work with you in the future. And I know he came here in March. I've talked to some people around him. I've started building relationships with some of the people in his circle, in his corner. And that's the only way I can approach it is like, listen, I may not like everything I've heard about him, but I don't know the guy.
Going in with a blank slate.
I'm trying to.
That's what everybody should do. You do a great job with that.
You do.
And
I mean, your
wish
ego's a little out of control, but
could do that. I wish everybody else could do
and
that.
I think more people do that than give credit
And
for.
I do too. That's why I said you're not alone. There are more that do that. But
And I ripped him after the first press conference. And I went in there with an open mind. And I sat there listening going, oh my God.
And that was fair for you to do because you were writing on what you saw, and what you saw was an abject disaster.
Yeah.
I'll say this. I checked with our college folks that covered him when he was at Clemson.
Okay.
And I also checked with some people that I know in Houston that have been long time, names you know, guys that have been in Houston forever. They cover the Oilers. I didn't get probably 7 or 8 people that I reached out to got back to me. I reached out to more than that, but the ones that I reached out to, of the 7 or 8 that got back to me, it looked like the kind of reference you would hope to get from someone who you put down as a reference.
Right.
Every single person, none with dogs in the fight.
That's what I was
People
saying.
that covered him for a couple years at Clemson, people that got to know him personally, people that got to see him operate behind the scenes with his teammates, his family, his friends, and it was glowing. It was 100% of the precincts reported, this guy's a great guy. I'm not saying that he didn't do these things, but that is out of character for who he is. I've seen how he treats people.
But the reality is that those people are not massage therapists, and we don't know.
No.
People are different with different people.
And they all said
we don't
that.
know. Right.
They all said, I'm not defending the claims against him.
Yeah.
I can't speak to those. I know nothing of that.
But I can
And I told them
but
specifically in my introductory email, I don't want to know I don't want your opinion on what he did. I want to know, in your experience with your eyes and how he's interacted with you and those around you, how is he as a human being?
And that's
why I'm telling you, it was glowing.
And that's why I said earlier, a lot of people don't want him here. A lot of people are disgusted by this.
Yeah.
I get it. You're allowed to feel that way. Feel that way.
Absolutely.
Sure.
You want to throw your jersey off? Throw your jersey off. You don't want to go to games anymore? I don't blame you. But it is curious to me we have not really heard his side. And you can say you can't defend the indefensible, because I've had people tell me that. I've had people in my company tell me that. You can't defend the indefensible. But I still think at some point his side
There's a side to the
should be
story.
heard. And I think it will be heard probably in a Netflix special 2 or 3 years.
I agree.
I'm serious.
Right.
No, I know
I
it
don't
is going to
think
happen.
I
that
don't
way.
think he trusts anyone to tell his story. And
I can understand why he wouldn't.
right, and it
Sure.
may be like the Michael, it's his version,
Yeah.
and maybe it's not exactly true, but this is his version.
Oh, you mean the Last Dance?
Yeah, the last.
I may have used this example on the show, but it's like making a murderer. When you watch the Netflix series,
You go. He's.
you're convinced this guy didn't do it.
That's exactly
Right.
it.
But then you realize, go read the book that was written by the prosecutor, who was made to look like an absolute tool.
Buffoon. Yeah.
And you read the book and you're like, so what it reminds you of is I just experienced the court and an actual court case on a massive scale.
Right.
There's a reason that in court cases, you don't just hear from the prosecution and then the jury goes and votes.
Right.
You hear the jury side, or you hear the prosecution side, and you're like, oh my God, this guy flat out did it.
Yeah.
And then you hear the defense side, and you're like,
I don't know.
but wait, but what about this? And it's the same thing here. He wants to control, and it's smart for him to do that. And
We
there
saw
will
with
be
Manti
people that
Te'o.
won't watch it or will dismiss it because they're like, well, it's his product.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But he does need to get his message out, and the way you control the messaging 100% is through a documentary where you see a compilation of facts that make him look innocent. But understand that's just one half of the story.
That's exactly right.
Guys,
And that's
here's
what
my
it-
question. On the field, what are your expectations this week? What is everybody's?
Rust.
I agree.
A lot of it.
I think we're going to see a mix, right? I think there's going to be moments where you're going to be like, that's why we got him,
That's why they went and got him.
right?
I think
And there's going to be moments where you're like,
I think you're going to hear people, and I hope I'm wrong, but I think if they're down 17-3, you will hear cries for put Brissett in.
oh, yeah, sure.
I don't think it's going to take much.
I don't think they'll be down 17-3 because I think
I don't
Houston's
either.
that bad.
I don't either.
But
But I think I just look back to now. He only threw what? He played 6 plays, 4 plays. He threw a pick. I think
the
he played 4
preseason.
plays.
Yeah.
He overthrew a receiver on his first ball. You expect him to do that. He's amped up. I hope I'm wrong, but I think that, look, you can't take a guy out of this is the highest caliber of talent in the world, and he hasn't done it against live ammunition in 2 years almost.
Right.
You're gonna be-
To expect him to go out there and be 31 or 36 for 4
foolish.
touchdowns and no picks,
That'd be foolish.
it's
Yeah.
foolish to expect that.
You know, I had somebody tweet at me yesterday and say, I can't wait to see Deshaun Watson. I feel the same way, too. They said to me, he's the second best quarterback in the NFL. And I said,
That's gas.
first of all, he's not
No.
the second best quarterback in the NFL. Could he be in the next few years? Sure, that's possible. He's that kind of
Well, we
talent.
saw him last.
But don't
He
put
was in
that
that
kind of
discussion.
don't put that kind of pressure on
No,
him
he doesn't
right
do
now.
that.
Again, I came back, and it goes back to the game plan. Now, you have to imagine, if I was away from the game for a while, I'm going to be rusty. It's going to take me a while to get some rhythm and cadence back into
Right.
into
And
how-
I think
how
we're talking
get-
games, not quarters.
yeah, not quarters, games,
I think
before I
it'll
get
be
myself back into a flow. But Stefanski has a luxury. My question
My
is,
phone.
will he deploy it?
In Chubb.
Yeah, will he deploy it?
Yeah.
Because that buys Watson time. I don't have to come here and say you got to make all the plays, right?
Right.
Now I will as the season went on, he got better with Jacoby. Like let me let especially the last few weeks. Let me let him eat a little more. Let me let him eat a little more, and I'll hold Jacoby in a slot here. This is where I need you.
McNuggets, you have
that's
something
the question.
you want to do?
Yeah, we